Good evening, this is Nick Inman from VolumeProfileTrader.com on Tuesday, November 29th. And first things first, if you haven't stopped by our trading room, which is open all this week for those interested, the link's at the bottom of the screen so you can check that out. So, hope to see you there. And as far as the market's concerned, the S&P futures contract we have up here, this is a 1 hour 90-day chart, and today was, although the market finished positive, the day was pretty weak, and you can see right now we're below today's low, except for in the very early part of the morning, around like 9 a.m. Eastern time. So it looks like we're in this high volume area with 1202 to 1206 is the high. 1206 was the high in Globex today. 1202 or 3 was the high in the pit session, and we're just in this range. And today was a day to sell the top end of the range. We see that now. So as far as being bullish on or bearish on the market, it's more like market neutral, waiting for some more time to pass before we get a better clue of what's going on. Remember, at the end of this week we have a jobs report, and we have a few other important indicators coming out this week, the start of December. So that should move the market some, maybe give us a sense of where the market wants to go. But really, we're floating in space here. Although the level is very important, we're at the point of control for the last 3 months. We have a gap high, or I should say an open gap on the upside around 1213.50, and an open gap on the downside around 1153.50. So we're kind of in no man's land, and I'm assuming once we poke our way, either way, we'll close either of those gaps. Hey, maybe we'll close both, over time. So, but let's look at some names that are performing well, and looks like soon to be opportunities. So first things first, let's look at Home Depot. Home Depot, since the lows in August, has made higher lows and higher highs on a consistent basis. We've had a balance range. We had a balance range back in August into October, and then on those lows on October, we had a breakout. We had a test of the breakout, which ended up being a higher low, and we're getting another higher low. And the most important factor about all of this is the annual point of control is at 37, and we, on very nice volume, we're getting a breakout above that. We have a high of 39.38 from back at the beginning of the year, so that's what we're going to test, which is about 1% away, and then from there it's blue skies. So Home Depot looks pretty good, although not up 5% today. Wait for some type of pullback, hopefully more towards 37. And if you get it there, that's a good price. Another name I'm looking at is Ford, and although we're at the bottom end of the range on Ford, which you see the sell-off that we've had, eventually this sell-off's going to turn, and I see this $9 low as an important level, and I see these current lows as a potential higher low, and you can see the volume difference. So if we hold this level, we should have a nice move back up to $11 or so, maybe even $11.50 on the upside, which should provide for pretty good opportunity. You can see in this range, in this specific range, the point of control is down at this $10 level, right where price is at. So it would act as like a springboard to higher levels. So that's what we're looking at on Ford. It's okay to scale in now with the stop or under the lows from Friday, which was 9 let's call it 975. So have a stop below 970. You could have it even below 960 if you want a little more wiggle room. But your expectations are that this point of control level from down here, I'll show you so it looks better. Okay, so we see our point of control, and right now Ford is just hanging around, and we're looking for a push higher, and if we do get a push higher, then this high volume area up here should be a good target. Okay, Freeport McMoran, it's bouncing off the bottom end of this channel. It performed relatively well today compared to the rest of the market, and we're looking for a bounce off these current lows back to the upper end of the range, the top of the channel. And if I scroll over, you can see the high volume that we have at this $35 price level. And if I zoom out one, you can see that it becomes even more relevant because it's the point of control over the last 2 years. So we have a high volume area from 34.50, let's call it, up to 36.76. If we can break through that, we should test the top end of this range, which is 43 on the upside and around 41.50 on the downside. And yes, I see this big volume right here, but considering price has done pretty well reaching the top of this range, that's our target. And so we're looking for a breakout from, basically a new high relative to today's high, and our stop goes either below yesterday's intraday low, or you can put it below Friday's intraday low. If you want to look at Freeport from a 1 hour chart, you can see this $40 level, which has been irrelevant support, or irrelevant to the bigger time frame. It could be an important first target, so it's especially with that point of control for November up there. So it's something to look out for. But as long as these current levels hold, then Freeport should be in okay position. Right now we are, with the rest of the market, in balance, but it looks like it could be an outperformer to the upside if we do get moving. Now let's look at NVDA. NVDA is a name that I've been watching for a while now, and let me zoom back in a little bit. We've been in this tight range, point of control forming at the top of the range, which it's not great. We would much rather see it at the bottom end of the range, but if we start poking our head out above this level from this high base that we've been trading in really for the last month or two, we should see $17 with no problem, and ultimately a test towards 18. But for now, we're still stuck in the range, and that's all there really is to it. Just waiting and seeing. Have a small placeholder position. Therefore, if NVIDIA starts to break out, it's easy to add to. And if it doesn't work out and NVIDIA falls through, then it's a small loss. Looking at Pepsi, Pepsi's been a name that's has held up relatively well compared to the rest of the market, but if you're looking for a slow mover for your portfolio, Pepsi may make sense. We're stuck in this range, but it should, considering we're under the 200-day moving average, people may think that's a bearish development. But what I think of it as, especially with a name like Pepsi, which is a high quality name, pays a decent dividend, you can make decent premium off of Pepsi, is you're getting this at a discount, and the point of control is incorporated with that discount. So I find it attractive at these levels, and you could have a nice push back up towards the high over time. Obviously, Pepsi's a slow mover. Okay, now I want to cover GLD, gold, and one thing that we're getting in gold is a point of control shift from this high up here around 173 for November I'm talking about. So for this composite, overall composite. It's now shifted below down to current levels. This is good in the sense of it's showing us balance rather than it being top heavy, which we saw the sell-off from. We're filling in some of that. So we are in a wait and see game with gold, with GLD, but if GLD trades around enough and sets up itself like it did back in October, we had a very nice move off of the point of control. So keep an eye on this, really this 167.50 to 166 level, and that's your pivot point, really. Another thing I'm looking at is the 10-year Treasury note, and I was talking about over the weekend how we could be seeing a topping pattern in this, and the next day, or I should say Monday, we gapped way lower on the notes, so that means yields have risen. And although we've retraced some of that move, really the current levels that we're sitting at should be some type of resistance, and if they are, that should be positive for equities. So it's something to be on the lookout. One thing that you could trade off of this is TBT. This would be a long play for you, which is the inverse of what we were just looking at, on similar at least. And you can see the point of control right at these levels. If we start poking our head above, it could be a good one. Targets would be anywhere, well, there are a lot of big volume areas, so what we'll do is focus on the levels that have mattered, and this recent swing high around 2033 or 2030 or so, and you know, up to, it could go as high as 2075, 21 on the upside, which was support back in October, broke down, became a general resistance area. So we're looking for a reversal. We still have, the lows were still back in, looks like September. So we are making perhaps a double bottom. These whole moving averages are intertwined with price. Price is above the shorter dated ones. That's good. That shows that we at least have a stopping point back on Friday, back on, looks like Wednesday, and looks like we're poised for a potential move higher. So if we start breaking, if TBT continues to show strength, you'll understand why. You have some decent upside targets, so it could be a good one as well. Okay, the last name I want to show is VXX, which is the VIX ETF, and this November point of control has shifted to the upper end of the range, and we're closing below it. That's a good thing if you want the VXX to move lower. So we also have these whole moving averages. They're all rolling over, and we're falling out of this bearish wedge pattern. The last couple days have been our test. I think you can be short this or long puts on this with a stop around 47.43, above 47.50 perhaps, and basically anticipate a downside of 43, then 41, and ultimately down in the mid-30s. So I hope this helps. If you were looking for the video last night, sorry about it, I was having trouble uploading. Hopefully tonight gets out a lot easier. You'll know that after watching this video. So have a good night, and I'll see you in the trading room tomorrow.